We do have those picks and bans ready for game 2. Let's see what the focus is. I want to ask you, after seeing how the game played out, what do you think they changed? Did you feel confident about maybe Dardez on the Ymir?
I didn't have an issue with Dardez on the Ymir. My issue was purely Funballer on that Scotty.
It was strong.
I feel as though allowing Funballer to have a godlike Scotty that just lets Funballer do everything he wants to do. He can pressure out in the lane, he can make the crucial rotations, and as well as just be a complete nuisance in those team fights because of that permafrost control.
Elevate do go ahead and ban out a Muzen Cobb and the Scotty as well. So not going to let Funballer have some of those high pressure, hyper carry, 80 carries this game. But once again, Valance put focus on Cherryo with that Athena and the Sylvanas. With
the Artio coming through already from Elevate, I'm kind of expecting this to, again, be a solo lane pick for no numbers here. And I say that because I don't think most players are a fan of Artio being in the support role, not really feeling as though she provides the appeal that you would want as like the sole provider appeal for a team. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see Elevate maybe looking for a Sobek later on in the draft.
But we do see Ratatoskr and Valance picked up one more time for them for the jungle and mid roles respectively. They had such a high impact. In particular, did Faeles here on that Ratatoskr, so they're going to try and run that back as Elevate pick up the Hui.
And Elevate actually taking away that Thoth because of the fact that Valance went for the Raijin. Yep. So it's going to be between Lawbster and DeathPanter one more time, see who gets a better end of that trade out. I don't think that the Raijin was the issue. It was more so the issue from the Ratatoskr being all over the place.
Rat was having a big impact in the last game. This time, though, Elevate have picked up Hui, and that leaves Osiris to go with Valance Squadron. So we got a good idea of where that's going, likely with the solo now that Ratatoskr has already been picked. So still looking for a support and a hunter over there on that team for Valance. They've got some good options.
And I also think that the Osiris can provide exactly what Valance are looking for. Last game, we saw Ducky just constantly being in the phase, pressuring out Elevate. That's kind of what you want him to bring back again. And also a really smart decision here, actually picking up that Ymir, because I wouldn't have been surprised to see Dardez maybe lean towards that one again.
And just, again, take away some of the options that he feels very confident on when he's able to pilot it. So it looks like they are going to likely just go ahead and take Artio to the support role, put Chulainn possibly in the solo, because they lock in Batz as jungle.
And Batz, I think, can also provide what Elevate are looking for. They need something that has a little bit more crowd control for those rotations from Valance. And with the Batz, Cherryo is going to be able to have hyper carry potential as well as just immediate setup for DeathPanter on that Thoth.
And Funballer locking in that Anhur. We all know how much Funballer likes to play Anhur, one of his favorite picks, and it gives him a lot of early control, a lot of early pressure in that lane. So if he wants to fight, then he's got a chance to do it.
Not to mention, Anhur is just a great matchup against Hui. It can really go either way between these two hunters, but having that pillar to block the ricochet can kind of mess up Hui's lane clear, as well as mess up any chances that if he's looking for pressuring out Funballer, it's going to be really hard for Baas to do that.
And in the end, we do see Dardez go here with that Artio. Do you think that was something where maybe they were leaving the flex option open, or were they always planning to give it onto Dardez from the beginning?
I think that they might have been looking for the flex if they could take it, but once Valance eliminated that option, kind of just knowing how Elevate is, I think that they just decided it was safer to go the other way around with it.
No Numbers does go with the leap to get himself out of danger there. Got sandwiched between Ducky and Faeles, so now that'll be his first ability he'll be working with. As Ducky and Faeles do look for the invade, they're staying right on top of that speed buff.
Speaking of which, BigManTingz made the rotation as well, getting that second ability down for the slow onto Dardez and Baas. And Dardez already incredibly low. He'll be able to sustain and survive for right now, but that's going to be pressure in favor of Valance.
And I like what we're seeing here. Elevate took the speed buff away from, or Valance did, from Elevate, so Elevate rotate back up, and they counter-invade to take their speed buff instead of trying to defend it. I think that's a good call because you kind of don't want to fight into that Osiris and Ratatoskr early pairing.
Whenever that occurs and the teams kind of just swap out speed buffs, it usually defaults to both sides going for their own speed buffs on those respawn timers, and so that makes things a little bit easier for Elevate as the game progresses.
And they're going for this pressure because Cherryo didn't start over in the solo lane with him. He's hanging out with DeathPanter to help his clear. That's why we see them over here taking this red buff away from Valance Squadron. That's why the pressure for Ducky and Faeles is so prevalent over here on the solo lane side.
actually really like that invade by Cherryo and DeathPanter, and the fact that they were able to get away with it is the most important part, and that's because Faeles, unlike Cherryo, started off in the solo lane, so no numbers on the Chulainn. All he really needs to do is buy time for Elevate, and as long as Cherryo can keep roaming around the mid and dual lane sides, that's going to really prevent Funballer from getting as much pressure as he would probably want off onto Baas.
And that's what we're seeing. Cherryo's hanging out, trying to slow down some of that dual lane side pressure here early in the game. No numbers, just trying to hang out and get his farm. Like you said, he only kind of has to hold out. Faeles isn't going to be farming as efficiently as Cherryo because they're splitting so much of it, so it's a chance for them to try and get some advantage on this left-hand side of the map early.
It does appear, though, that Funballer is slightly ahead of Baas. Not by much, just a little bit, but sometimes hitting level 5 before your opposition can make all the difference when it comes to a team fight.
That is what they're going to be looking to do. Ducky choosing to go with that horrific emblem as his first relic option here. So he's going to be looking to go aggressive, try and slow out if he can, maybe specifically onto no numbers when they have an engagement or a Cherryo rotates over, and limit some of their escape options, though he is going up against that sprint from no numbers, which counters it pretty well.
The horrific emblem on Osiris can be incredibly scary to deal with because he already has that tether that provides the slow, and so when you combine slows on top of slows, that means that you're just going to be eating even more damage from Osiris, and it might not even just be Ducky who's attacking you.
That's right, Faeles has been hanging out with him all game long, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was there if they tried to make an aggressive push. Lawbster continuing to defend the mid lane alone, and they trust him to do it on this Raijin. He's been doing pretty well with it so far.
Lawbster is such an experienced mid laner. You kind of expect that you can let him do whatever, and he'll still be able to stay on par with the enemy, if not get further ahead. And sure enough, that seems to be the case. And one more time, it's not going to be the standard build that we've been seeing from a lot of these Raijins and Thoths on either side. Actually, DeathPanter not looking for that book of Thoth Rush and opting for the pen boots. And for Lawbster, it's up in the air as to which direction he's headed.
That's right, the full pen boots come out for DeathPanter, so looking to get that mobility up against Faeles on this Ratatoskr, especially after last game. I don't blame him. He's been doing a real good job providing pressure. And as you said, Elevate coming down, securing their own speed buff this time after they counter-invaded last time just to keep everything even. They are coming up, though. They might be looking to try and pull off an invade if it takes Faeles a little bit longer to secure it. He still hasn't gotten it yet. Secures it at the last moment. Cherryo drops the Fear No Evil. They can't put out quite enough damage before he gets up onto the tree, though, and Faeles escapes.
A bit unfortunate that Cherryo wasn't able to drop that Fear No Evil before Faeles got his through the Cosmos up and running, and so because of that, Faeles is still going to have his purification beads.
So Faeles able to get out of that one while also securing his buff. Cherryo looking for the invade to try and slow him down a little bit on that side, but not quite able to get it or even get any relics out. Instead, Elevate, or Valance Squadron rather, defend their own buffs on that dual lane side, and they head back to parity. As again, we start off a little bit slower here in the early.
My only concern for Cherryo on this Bots is that he's pretty much the only person on his team that can force out relics. And whenever you're playing Bots, the mentality is to hold that thought. It's actually Dardez in a whole lot of trouble right now, trying to get pressured out by Faeles. Final Judgment is going to connect, but it's still not enough to take out that rat.
Showing how hard he's hitting though early on. Faeles in a lot of trouble, had to back away, but a good job not dropping anyone in that last engagement, and Elevate just got to back off for now. But I agree with what you're saying about Cherryo in particular, maybe having a hard time finding a target for that Fear No Evil, but it looks like Valance Squadron only are worried about it in particular on Lawbster and Faeles because Funballer has some CC immunity in his kit.
And that's the concern, though, is that whenever you're playing the Bots, ideally you see these compositions where you'll have the Ares alongside of it, or just an Ymir even, and BigMan's the one with the Ymir. So it's just, I'm concerned that Cherryo's not going to be able to find the targets that he would normally because he's kind of the only member on his team that can force out relics.
Now Elevate doing a good job getting some warding up on this solo lane side to try and respond to the pressure that Faeles and Ducky were putting out on that side. They'll have a better idea of where they are and where they're rotating around that jungle, and in response, Valance are the ones that have the vision control on this dual lane side of the map. So they'll be able to help keep Funballer a little bit safer over there in case Cherryo tries to rotate over with that Fear No Evil.
And again, DeathPanter and Cherryo just trying to stick together here. And that's kind of the best way to look at things, is those two need to be together at all times, because on the rare occasion that Cherryo is able to just force out somebody's relics and they're not able to avoid that fear no evil, then DeathPanter has to be the one immediately following up.
DeathPanter was able to get away from the aggression from BigManTingz, who was looking to try and get a freeze, but after what happened here in Game 1, Taco, Elevate are still okay. All they need really is a split. It's Valance who have all this pressure where they got to pick up the 2-0 and get both games going. So I'm not surprised they're playing a little cautiously.
And Funballer actually opting for the Ninja Tabi first and foremost, as opposed to Baas, who went for the Devourer's Gauntlet. So Funballer, he's all about aggression. That's all he wants to do. Anytime you see the boots being built first on a Hunter, especially one like Anhur, it's because they want to do this, and it's just consistently forcing their opposition underneath their tower or even looking for the solo kill.
And Funballer's had the pressure in this lane. It feels like all game. We finally see Cherryo move away from this dual lane side of the map. So that's another part, I think, of why we see Funballer now playing a little bit more forward. He doesn't have to worry about the Batz showing up outside his door at any given moment like he did last time. Praying up a little bit far forward, though, are Dardez and Baas. Actually, it's DeathPanter caught by the wall, accidentally placed by BigManTingz, Lawbster up into the air, but it's Faeles who cleans it up. Cherryo's here, though, and he's looking for people who are low. He gets the Fear No Evil out. The shell keeps Lawbster alive for the moment. Faeles drops on top of him to try and get him away, and it's enough as Cherryo couldn't clean it up.
Oh, that was just so rough for Cherryo and Dardez. Dardez making the rotation, and Cherryo tried to get the predict off with his jump in, but Lawbster just went a little bit more to the left, and that's all that it took. Cherryo unable to respond to that first blood from Valance.
And it really was important. Cherryo was in a position where he really could get something back in that engagement. Instead, Valance Squadron make it away scot-free, getting a kill one more time on the Faeles' Ratatoskr, who's been playing really well the whole set so far, and help him get a little bit further ahead of Cherryo.
And it was just a really strong wall as well by BigManTingz that really started it off, just because once you catch out half the Thoth's dash, just from having him slide along the ice cream.
Though, here in the solo. Oh, he just barely gets out. Look how low he was, Taco.
And that's just one of the risks that you take whenever you try to cover your solo laner's lane and look for the farm yourself. Faeles and Ducky, Osiris Ratatoskr, that is a very potent combination early on.
They probably had him locked down over there. We see that Cherryo didn't have to use beads, so he felt okay getting out of there. He still has that relic available to him, but that burst damage came through big for him. Just trying to, as you said, defend the lane a little bit while no numbers had to back.
Wouldn't be surprised to see Elevate again try to just slow down the pacing of this game. It already seems as though Valance is ready to turn things up a notch, and with that in mind, Elevate have to be really cautious about making sure that Valance doesn't just get full control of whatever the hell they want to do.
And they've done a good job of it so far. The gold lead really is only about that first blood bounty, and taking a look at our levels, those look to be pretty close too, so it's not as if the experience lead is very far out of control. What they're going to have to do is make sure they don't give up another big team fight where 3 members die, like in last game, freeing up Valance to take an objective, or just don't let them sneak one away.
The first Gold Fury, I think, is going to be incredibly important for both teams, because depending on how that team fight goes, I think it could say a lot. And speaking of which, Dardez, a little bit of trouble, a little bit of poke out, but nothing for him to be too concerned about. Baas just trying to get some cheeky ricochets off onto Funballer. Funballer did just finish his Devourer's Gauntlets, but he's about 30-something stacks behind Baas, so Baas having a little bit more of a power spike.
Dardez could be in trouble. Freeze coming out. Good knockup from No Numbers, but the final judgment is better coming out from DeathPanter. No Numbers gets the first kill on the board for Elevate, and he's looking for more as he pushes in onto Ducky. Good stun.
And that was a great stun, actually, by DeathPanter. Somebody's got to get the last hit. No Numbers trying to go so deep with it. I'm surprised that DeathPanter didn't have any more follow-up. He must have been on cooldowns, and that's the only explanation why he wouldn't try and secure that one himself.
That return kill was good from Elevate, but my heart breaks a little bit for DeathPanter. He got a great stun off, but still they could not clean up Ducky at the end of that engagement, so it ends up being 1-0 to even things up. That gold lead now close to 200, very minuscule at this point. Things are very, very even as we approach about 11 minutes into the game.
Still, at least they were able to finally find their kill on the board. It didn't take as long as last game, and not to mention, it just keeps things a little bit more even across the board. BigManTingz, though, Concerned about the slows again, opting for that wing blade immediately.
I saw that wing blade that he picked up, trying to get away from some of the slows that are going to be coming out from Baas's big ultimate. Even Cherryo, I believe, on the leap has a slow if he lands on you too, so they got some options. But the one who's really in trouble is the Gold Fury. Valance looked for a sneak away, but there are some members of Elevate who are here this time to try and stop it. It ended up being real close in the end. Faeles goes up and DeathPanter takes it away. Elevate coming up big, now they're in the lead.
And that was a huge steal from DeathPanter, actually. Baas dropped the ultimate as well, which kind of just turns it automatically into a 50-50, but that is a rough one for Valance, kind of just banking everything on securing that one.
It wasn't even with his ultimate, it was just with his first ability that he was able to steal that one away. So really without any kind of hard confirm, where Valance instead hoping that Elevate just wouldn't recognize that it happened, committing onto it, and they end up splitting the objective. Elevate tried to start with the Portal Demon, but have to drop it. His Lawbster's in a lot of trouble on the right. He gets cleaned up by Cherryo. Good return kill, but BigManTingz has more to say.
Except no numbers. He's there to interrupt. He popped out the sprint for his jungler as well, really trying to assist him in his great escape. And Cherryo, he's not done yet, though. He's ready to turn back around. Funballer's trying to make this rotation, looking to aggress straight onto DeathPanter. Dash is going to buy him enough time for right now. Cherryo going to leap over the wall of the Fire Giant pit. Meanwhile, Ducky's pulling the aggression of him.
This is good for Elevate. They got that return kill on the Lawbster, and they haven't given up anything in return. Bede's coming up big for DeathPanter to get him away from the slow from Ducky as well in that engagement. Now it's 2 for 1, and with that Gold Fury still, Elevator out in front.
Funballer was just so eager to make that rotation, really trying to get something going, but because of the dash from DeathPanter, didn't want to commit his ultimate to it. And for good reason. It really isn't a whole lot that Valance could have done there. It was just a really well-executed peel by Elevate to get each and every one of their members out of that one.
And this is really all Elevate have to do. If Valance are going to keep forcing the issue, as Totally and I like to say, that all they really have to do is be there to respond and keep this game closer even and try and make sure they're there in the late game to go for it against Valance. Because like we said, they only need a split here.
Well, just off of those last couple of plays by Elevate, they're actually feeling their first real lead of the game. It's still nothing to get too comfortable over, but about 1.3, 1.4k gold is just enough. It's a start.
That's right. It's the beginnings of them finally being able to get a real lead going in this set. As they've been down, it feels like almost the whole set so far, or at least even. Now, though, the ball's a little bit in their court. They're the ones that can come out, start trying to establish some vision over what they feel is the next big objective. We're still 2.5 minutes away from Gold Fury spawning, so that probably won't be the call for a little while here, but they could certainly do with the Portal Demon.
And Elevate again. Dardez is actually getting separated from the rest of the pack because of that wall by BigManTingz, but he's super tanky. Funballer, though, still getting a decent bit of poke out into his health, but it's going to be Cherryo going with the blink engage, and Lawbster is just gone.
Final judgment from DeathPanter ripping through. What a big hit from him. Cherryo ends up getting the credit for it. He's sitting 2-0-1. Now Elevate up 3-1 over Valance Squadron off of what looked like Dardez being way out of position.
Lawbster just needed 20 more seconds. By the time he spawns, his purification beads will be back up, but he didn't have them for that engagement, and that's what makes all the difference, is Cherryo staying on top of these active timers.
And I wanted to ask you too, Taco, they really had Dardez separated there on the under end of the wall. Dardez had nowhere to go. They were putting in damage. They kind of just dropped it, backed away. Was it just because Dardez is too tanky, or what happened there?
Dardez is too tanky right now for Valance to want to look for an all-in commit, because if they don't secure that kill onto Dardez, then that just means that they're all probably going to be a little bit too far out of position, having pushed up more towards Elevate side from what I'm sure would have been a escape opportunity for Dardez. It's just not a situation you want to bank everything on.
That fear no evil from Cherryo could have been even worse if they'd all stayed grouped up, so they wisely back off, only end up losing Lawbster in that engagement, but now things are starting to move well in control, or a little bit better in control of Elevate. Cherryo in particular is the one that leads on, though. He's 2-0-1, already has that hi-rez finished off. He's working into what could be the Jotuns, maybe even I think he still build Brawlers out of that path as well, so he's got some options for as far as his build path right now.
I think the primary difference between this game and the last one is that we haven't been seeing nearly as many rotations out of Funballer. He's looked for the opportunities a couple of times, but on Anhur, it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to try and make anything happen, as opposed opposed to being on that Scotty and having so much control because of the permafrost, because of Calder. And with all of that in mind, Elevate can actually play a little bit more aggressive than what they were in the last game.
And we're not too far from the point where things kind of broke open in Valance Squadron's favor last game. It was about 19, 20 minutes or so in when things started to move kind of out of control for them. So this is the point in the game where if you win a team fight handily and the objectives are up on the map as the Gold Fury responds, you can really start to move things out of hand.
And speaking of which, Ducky kind of taking advantage of that early Osiris aggression. He's got that Glad Shield online along with the Mystical Mail and is just giving it to no numbers right now.
Yeah, the slow is egregious. You're just moving through quicksand with no numbers there, having to give up like 60% of his HP basically for free to Ducky, who was just swinging away with in-hands. So he'll be backing, and that does free Ducky up to come be a part of an engagement if Valance Squadron want to try and start up something.
But that might have been exactly what no numbers was looking for. Ducky actually taking the more aggressive path and getting caught out with stuns. That's his health bar. That's going to be the ultimate, and he is removed from the match.
Perfect coordination there from Elevate. Cherryo pins him up against the wall with the Fear No Evil final judgment from DeathPanter follows up. They do get the kill, but they won't have that confirmation for the objective, though, so Lawbster could potentially have a say in this Gold Fury as the blink-in comes out from Dardez, forces Funballer to back away, and takes away his beads.
That was Funballer's purification beads, though. I think he might have been expecting a Fear No Evil or something from Cherryo, but that ultimate was just used on Ducky. A little bit surprised there that Funballer would actually so hastily press that purification beads.
So that's a cooldown he's not going to have. Ducky now only 5 seconds away from respawning. And Elevate look to be giving up the Gold Fury, so they don't have to worry about losing too much in this engagement. Elevate know how important this game is. They don't want to force it if everyone from Valance is here, and there's a chance they could steal it away.
Actually super surprised, though. I don't think we'll be seeing Ducky take such aggressive pathing again, though. DeathPanter just deleted his health bar, and with the assistance of Cherryo, that setup off of the Fear No Evil for his final judgment is incredibly strong.
And he's going with the straight-up power build so far with the Pin Boots, Book of Thoth into that Obsidian Shard. So DeathPanter is going to be hitting plenty hard in these engagements so far. Dardez having to back up away from the combo of Faeles and Funballer, who are plenty capable of locking him down and putting out some good damage. Cherryo lurking over the wall, though.
There is a ward in favor of Valance, though, right on top of the peak of that Gold Fury pit. So with that, they're going to be able to spot out Cherryo anytime he's trying to make that rotation and look for the gank onto Funballer.
And again, Elevate are up about 2,000 gold at this point. So they do have the beginnings of a lead. They're the ones who have the sort of the onus to start trying to force this next big engagement. They had a chance there where Ducky wasn't up on the map, but the response from Valance Squadron was too strong. They had to back off. They're going to need to look for another opportunity, maybe another pick to try and set it up.
And Funballer actually opting for the Aussie immediately after Executioner rather than the chin size, so he's just looking to try and help self-sustain himself. And speaking of which, Faeles probably wishing he had a little bit of sustain right now after eating about half of his health from just a little bit of poke by DeathPanter.
Yep, that's what it's like playing up against a Thoth. You can just wave goodbye to half your health. Faeles was able to go sustain, though, so he's okay. Fear No Evil committed from Cherryo, but the wall kept him separated. Dardez was wrapping around the back end, and Faeles is up in the air as well. Lands down on Dardez, locks him in for the return damage. Funballer ends up getting credit for that one, but Baas cleans up Faeles as well, so it's a support for a jungler so far.
Except no numbers is caught up on the wrong side of the wall. Ducky there just to make sure the rest of the Elevate members disperse, and now that is a open season Gold Fury. Funballer's already got his eyes on it with his double sustain build. He'll be able to heal back up to full in no time.
And this is without any frontliners now for frontliners for Elevate. Now they'll have a harder time getting into the Gold Fury pit and trying to defend. Cherryo blinks in, but didn't really have anything to follow up. Baas actually does clean up Lawbster, but DeathPanter falls to Ducky. There's some low health bars in the back. I think that's why Elevate are trying to pick something out here, but there's just not a chance. Ducky ends up cleaning up Baas thanks to the help from Funballer, and Cherryo's just got to run.
And Baas tunnel vision just a little bit too much there, landing back down on top of Ducky and Funballer. Funballer was incredibly low, but that Aussie proc just coming up huge for him in the team fight.
And that's what happened with Elevate. After they end up giving up the trade, and it goes in Valance's favor, and they start the Gold Fury back up, they're all so low, and they know they got a lot of damage with DeathPanter, Baas, and Cherryo there. They just want to try and get some return kills. Instead, they end up giving control back to Valance, who can't take the Gold Fury, but they do slow down the push, and they lose a little bit of that lead.
Elevate, though, is still slightly in favor as far as the gold is concerned. Yep. Experience a little bit different. Actually, is still some differences on both sides, although mostly between ADC and the solo laners. Valance, though, one more time, just going to pull onto this Gold Fury, seeing if they can get away with it.
Only person here, though, is Dardez. Fails, drops down. The Impale comes out from Funballer to knock him back, and Ducky cleans it up. Gold Fury goes the way of Valance. Now the lead's back a little bit in their favor. They've evened out the gold lead Elevate had.
And with that being taken away, it looks as though Elevate want to maybe try and pull onto this Portal Demon, or at least they're going to ward it up, make sure that Valance doesn't have any opportunities to just go for it freely. Now instead it is No Numbers and Dardez starting it up already, but the rest of Valance is already aware that this is happening.
Funballer's still pretty far back, but they do have Faeles and BigManTingz who are here. It's actually very low. Only Ducky really in position to try and stop it. Final Judgment comes out and they clean it up. So Elevate doing a good job getting something back at the end of that.
Still, not anything to feel super comfortable on. Valance hovering around the area, kind of thinking about maybe we can get away with this Fire Giant, but instead...
They did last game, so...
They did last game, but this time with the Portal Demon, it's going to make things a little bit more complicated. Instead, Valance looking to group up and go onto this T1 tower. Dart is actually looking for the engage.
He was able to knock up several members. Fails now, goes up through the Cosmos and crashes down on top of Cherryo and DeathPanter. Two prime targets. Fails cleans that one up. Now it's DeathPanter falling for Funballer. Two quick kills in their favor, but Fails falls to No Numbers as well.
And BigManTingz is actually the only member trying to get away. Baas looking to clean him up with the Suns, but it is going to be Baas finding BigManTingz. Dardez, though, in a whole lot of trouble, just getting free farmed by Funballer.
He ends up falling at the end of that engagement. Tier 1 tower ends up falling. Valance Squadron end up winning that one 3-2 and taking the structure as well. So another good fight from them this side, as when things even back out, they were happy to come down and try and force fights.
Funballer has been popping off on this Anhur, and the attack speed alone from his build is enough to just shred through all these members from Elevate. And speaking of which, Elevate, I don't even think they know this Fire Giant's happening. No Numbers, though, he might have just heard them being on it. Baas is going to make that rotation, try and help out the rest of his team, and I'm a little bit surprised that they're not looking to dance around this bit longer.
Valance Squadron just give it up. The game is still so close at this point. It's basically even in the kills, 8-8. We're 23.5 minutes in. If they hold on that gold Fire Giant too long and give it up to Elevate, they'd be the ones in control. Valance playing it careful, because remember, they got to get both points this set if they want to get a chance to go into Super Regionals. I think they might even be confirmed for it if they get both wins here, so they really need it.
Valance 100% has to get both of the wins here. They can't afford to just have a split, because that puts Elevate through automatically, and then you always have to worry about your destiny being in somebody else's hands. You don't want to rely on energy versus rival as your way in, and either way, I do believe that Valance are actually out of it no matter what if they don't 2-0 this set.
That's right, with Rival already being up ahead of them, and if Energy 2-0s, they'd pass them. They really got to get this 2-0 here if they want to go to Super Regionals. It's their only way, and that's why we might be seeing them play a little more cautiously than we normally see from Funballer and the boys, as they know what's on the line here.
Still just insane thinking that between Valance, Elevate, Rival, and NRG, one of those teams isn't going to Supers because they got to try and battle through the gauntlet, and then even more still, one of those teams probably isn't going to go to Worlds.
It's so much talent over there at the top of EU right now. They're so close. That's why we're down to we're at the final week, and we still don't know who's going where. 2 beads, though, forced down the middle lane, or rather just the beads of DeathPanter. So that's a big win coming out for Valance Squadron. Won't have those cooldowns available as Dardez continues to pressure onto Lawbster.
And Dardez actually stopping Lawbster from getting that teleport off, and I'm kind of surprised that Elevate didn't look for any follow-up, but don't think they recognized it immediately, and by the time they were still just a little bit too far behind Dardez to get close enough to put out some poke on a Lawbster.
And again, we're dead even right now, like 100 gold separating the two teams. That's essentially nothing. There's experience leads on both sides as well, with DeathPanter being a little bit ahead of Lawbster, but Funballer a little bit ahead of Baas, and it kind of evens out. And I want to talk about Baas a little bit here, too. I mean, he really is kind of showing up for him on this Hui, sitting at 3-1-0. He's been rotating in and having an impact.
Last game was a little bit more quiet from Baas, but this game, he is bringing out that substitute member that Elevate really needs. They need their carry to carry, and that's kind of what Baas has been doing. Not top of the player damage charts just yet, but he'll start working his way up there as the game progresses.
That's right, and you don't have to come in and be Funballer in these games. You don't have to come in and be Barracuda, but you know they need their AD carry to be there for him in these team fights, and that's what Baas is doing. He's showing up and let the vets like Cherryo, let no numbers come in and have big impacts for you as Funballer looks to start it up.
Funballer, he really wants these gold fear. He really wants the objectives and the fights, but
yeah.
Elevate are just doing an excellent job at staying grouped together right now. It's not really in the laning phase any longer. 26.5 minutes and climbing. Speaking of which, BigManTingz with a huge freeze there onto DeathPanter, but the Fear No Evil from Cherryo is going to counter it out.
That's a big ultimate that drop. Baas rotates in, drops down the Suns on top of the team fight. Faeles is ready to hop up into the air as well. He lands down on top of DeathPanter, who had to use the beads already, but nothing more is going to come from his whole team's there, has to back off. Cherryo actually blinks in with that monkey toss and has to back up.
It just jumps straight into the oracles. He was never planning on staying. He just wanted to look for that in-hand crit follow-up. I can't blame him for that. He can actually deal quite a bit of damage because of that passive that Batz has, where you have that crit strike potential after one of your abilities.
A couple members of Valance Squad that backed. They won't have Ducky or BigManTingz here for the moment, and Elevate are using this opportunity to start up the Gold Fury. For whatever reason, Valance Squad didn't think they were doing it, but actually, they're going to go over to the other side of the map. They say, you can have the Gold Fury. We want the Fire Giant side at 27 minutes in.
But I would still have to favor the Gold Fury for sure. Oh, that Final Judgment's not going to be able to take it out. Valance, excellent job temporarily resetting that one just to make sure that the Final Judgment wouldn't steal. And now it's actually Valance looking to go on the aggression. Dardez getting walled off one more time by BigManTingz, but it's actually Ducky who's separated from the pack, and no numbers taking out Faeles immediately.
DeathPanter putting a bunch of damage through that team fight, helping getting the first kill. Cherryo was on the back trying to set something up, but he ends up falling, as does Lawbster. That's a lot of damage for Valance Squadron that they're going to be missing out on. Faeles falls as well. Dardez and no numbers continuing the pressure on the Funballer in the back, not letting the Lion free cast anymore. Roots in place Ducky for the Suns from Baas, who comes up big, gets one more kill. This fight's gone 3-1 in favor of Elevate.
And there's only 2 members left alive for Valance to try and stop Elevate, which I'm certain that they're going to be looking for this Fire Giant here shortly. BigManTingz actually making the safe rotation in off of the top side, and Funballer just coming straight through, but he's going to actually do a lot of damage onto Baas, who's forced to jump forward to get away from that Fire Giant aggression. But Funballer, he's gone and out. No numbers with the cleanup kill.
I know he died, but I don't think I've ever seen a more Funballer play in my life. Coming through the portal deep into the Fire Giant pit with like 4 dudes there saying, I can take the world. That
Honestly,
sounds like Funballer.
That seemed a little bit more like Season 1 Zapman than anything else. That's like a
if he
classic
had used beads,
Zapman
maybe,
play.
yeah.
Bees and then the Aegis.
Yeah.
But either way, that was still, the attempt was there. Funballer actually almost claimed Baas's life.
And they don't get the Fire Giant.
And that is all that needed to happen.
That it comes up big. I mean, we're saying here that Funballer goes in and kind of throws his life away, but it's way more than that. They had a clear chance for the Fire Giant, but they end up having to drop the DPS, go for him. I believe it was BigManTingz who was able to rotate in, at least show a little bit more face, and Elevate had to drop it. So Funballer really coming up big for his team. Even though Elevate have opened up a bit more of a lead now, about 4,000 gold in the lead, they've got a chance now, do Valance, to slow down this push.
The scary part here for Valance, though, is that Baas is starting to realize just how much damage he actually does onto single targets. His in-hands are just crushing right now.
He's got that pen attack speed build going for him, almost finishing out that Odysseus bow, which will let him start sending those charges through the backline of the team fight. So even if he's smacking, like, say, Ducky or BigManTingz, he can get some damage off on the Faeles and Lawbster as well. So that'll be an option for him as Ducky's trying to be the front line. Gets stunned out by Baas, though. Lots of return damage. Lord of the Afterlife has to be used defensively. Another big win for Elevate, who look for more, but Cherryo off the mark. Mark with the Fear No Evil.
Funballer with the prediction on that Fear No Evil drop was able to leap away from that one, but one more time, Elevate going to try and stick onto this Fire Giant. Baas, though, taking quite a little bit of poke from it. Dardez getting impaled into that ice cream sandwich wall, and now it's Lawbster going up into the taiko drums, trying to secure a kill.
And he's playing a beat that I don't think Elevate likes very much. No numbers forces him back away, and they give up on the Fire Giant for now. Funballer has been playing out of his mind this game so far. If you need any more proof that he's one of the elite AD carries, then look here.
And No Number is actually one of the only members trying to defend against this Fire Giant siege. Faeles now going up into the air. That through the Cosmo is going to be huge for zoning members away. And Funballer, he's just sticking to this FG. It's already under 50% health, but Baas is in so much trouble. Faeles actually able to take him down and out for the count.
Dardez cleans up Faeles in return, though. Fire Giant still leashed and still low, still throwing in damage in the team fight. Here is DeathPanter, and he's having a big impact as Cherryo has to run away. DeathPanter looking for the long-range stun, doesn't even need it as Cherryo gets away, but can't say the same for No Numbers after an excellent wall comes out from BigManTingz.
But DeathPanter is left all by himself. Funballer just completely eating that final judgment to the face. No care in the world. One more time, Valen's going to try and pull this Fire Giant, see if they can get away with it. And with only Cherryo and Dardez left to try and defend, I think that they might have the damage to secure it before Cherryo can make his way into the Fire Giant pit.
So excellently baited out here was Valance Squadron. Still, the Fire Giant hasn't dropped just yet, but now it does end up getting taken. Cherryo wasn't able to get quite into the pit in time. Sends that monkey through, but it just wasn't quite enough damage to get any more kills out of it. But Valance do a great job playing patiently and baiting Elevate in bit by bit.
And it all comes back to that play by Funballer, walking through the portal into 4 members
That's
of
right.
Elevate. He calls them to reset it and leash it, and they weren't able to pick it back up afterwards, buying his team just enough time. So now it's going to be Valance with that Fire Giant instead. Only member missing it is Faeles.
And I believe when he came through the portal, he specifically put damage into Baas as well to slow down the damage that we're going to be using on the Fire Giant. So it's not just that he showed up and wagged around, but he put target on the most important member, put damage on the most important member. Funballer playing really, really well this game. Now Valance Squadron are the ones with the Fire Giant. They're still down a little bit of gold, but they'll even that out here with the Gold Fury and a couple of towers, as all but one are still up on the map for Elevate. Valance still got plenty of work to do.
Valance has a lot of work to do, but this Fire Giant should help them do it even quicker than before. And they made fast work of that Gold Fury. Wouldn't be surprised to see the same thing happen to some of these towers that are left standing for Elevate right now.
And look at this gold chart. It's been up and down. That's perfect to explain how this game has been so far. It's been in favor of Elevate 1 minute, in favor of Valance the next. And Taco, either way this game goes so far, I don't think you can say Baas has done anything worth pointing out. He's been playing well.
Baas has been doing an excellent job in game number 2. Game 1 was certainly a little bit shaky, but again, that's to be expected from subs stepping up into quite possibly the most important set for Elevate of all time. And right now, T2 Tower not standing for much longer.
Tier 2 tower is under aggression here. BigManTingz gets the freeze out on the No Numbers as Faeles continues to lurk around the back. He's got that through the Cosmos available if he wants to land in on the team fight. But Elevate doing a good job defending so far. Blinking from Cherryo, and he uses the Fear No Evil. Doesn't get too much off it though, but he does get some relics out of Ducky.
All he really wanted was Funballer's Purification Beads because his ultimate should be up in time by if Valance are to think about sieging a Phoenix because there's still 2 T2s remaining for Elevate. So it's certainly nothing for Valance to feel too confident on. Even with Fire Giant, they're still playing this so patiently, understanding and respecting the counter engage from Elevate.
And they're basically playing for a ticket right now. BigManTingz blinks in, gets the stun off, force beads out from DeathPanter, who goes right into the final judgment, but fails, lands on top of him. Aegis keeps him alive for the moment. Baas drops the sundown, but 2 important targets fall here as Faeles fall for Valance and DeathPanter falls for Elevate.
DeathPanter got everything that he wanted out of that engagement, though. At least was able to do enough damage for Faeles to fall as well. T2 Tower is still going down, however, but No Number is actually doing a great job at zoning away Lawbster and Funballer, kind of just mitigating, playing damage control there for his team.
And really, if all they get are those 2 towers for that Fire Giant, Elevate have done that. Elevate, that's a win for Elevate in my mind. You want way more out of your Fire Giants if you're Valance Squad at this point. They do still have about 45 seconds on it, but at this point they're backing. They don't have Faeles. They'll probably be looking to establish for the next point. So Elevate show a real strong defense here.
DeathPanter has really been having the time of his life in both of these games, though. Just Faeles consistently going straight after him. All it takes is for Big Man to force even one active out of DeathPanter, and Faeles is just full committing every time.
And that's what Faeles has to do. Use that semi-global ultimate to get into the back and slow down the biggest damage dealer for DeathPanter. But as you mentioned, he's doing the right thing, getting his damage out on him, so at least he's able to get traded out for Faeles 1-for-1, and Valance Squad have to slow down. Now we're fighting over the Portal Demon as Fire Giant is dropping off.
And this is where Elevate need to be right now. They can't afford to let Valance take another Fire Giant. If Elevate are able to secure a Fire Giant, they will have a significantly easier time sieging, just because their draft is probably a little bit more late game oriented, but Funballer has just been playing this on her like there is no tomorrow.
Baas is getting closer and closer to that critical mass, though, where he'll be able to stack with them. Faeles in a lot of trouble. His ultimate gets forced out. He has to go up into it, but the Portal Demon looks like it does fall in favor of Valance thanks to Lawbster or Funballer's strong push. So even though a couple of relics were used, Valance do get the portal.
And this is the position that Elevate didn't want to have to be in. They need at least 2 or maybe even 3 members constantly hanging around this Fire Giant pit. Otherwise, Valance, they're not going to hesitate in securing this one.
And with the damage Funballer's doing right now, it'll happen very, very quickly. He's got that Crusher in his build, lots of attack speed with the Kensai's Executioner and Aussie all working together along with the Ninja Tabai. So he won't have any trouble shredding through the Fire Giant as it is bursting forth from those chains and is now directly targetable. But all 5 members are elevated here, and they're looking to try and defend.
And Ducky, though, playing zone duty alongside of BigManTingz. Big Man actually getting his freeze off onto DeathPanter and Dardez, I believe, but still not enough to force out any relics just yet.
And that's a lot of patience from him to be able to hold onto that bead and recognize there wasn't any more damage coming. In fact, Dardez getting that Magai's Blessing to respond to the hard crowd control that's coming out from Valance Squadron. Cherryo is sitting around the side, trying to look for a way to blink in, get that Fear No Evil off, and BigManTingz has been on point with these walls so far, just changing the geometry of the map and isolating members of Elevate and making them have a hard time fighting in.
DeathPanter and Cherryo need to be careful, though, because of where Faeles is on the map right now. He might be in mid lane for now, but with that ultimate, he can very easily get into Elevate's backline immediately, and actually Elevate able to establish some map pressure, forcing Valance up and out of the Fire Giant pit.
We even see the Blood Force here, cameraman pointing it out here for us, onto Faeles, trying to give himself, it's a pretty big amount of power you get from one single item, and some lifesteal.
It's not so much the power and the lifesteal as much as it is he just wants that health shield, speaking of which, Faeles going a little bit deep there, trying to isolate No Numbers from the rest of his team. Ducky committing his Lord of the Afterlife as well, but No Numbers is ready to go in.
Baas dropped the Suns down, but the Thorns coming out from Ducky were too much. He wasn't able to keep in-handing. The Root, though, is enough. Final Judgment being charged. Fear No Evil sets up a clean kill from Baas onto Ducky with some good help from DeathPanter. Now it's 5v4 in favor of Elevate, and they don't have the frontliner do Valance.
But Valance, they still have Lawbster's ultimate as well as BigManTingz and Funballer. It took them 3 ults for the price of basically 2, and it's a little bit better for Valance that Ducky goes down there because they just left him. They didn't try and save him. I think if they had tried to save him there, they might have ended up going down as well. Speaking of which, Funballer in a lot of trouble, actually. That crit from Cherryo off the follow-up ability, really putting in work.
And Cherryo getting a real favorable trade up against Funballer. So now with Ducky gone and Funballer having to back, this is Elevate making their call to go for the Fire Giant. Up into the air is Faeles, so they even get to throw the Cosmos out from him. But this is just enough to deter them and give Funballer a chance to get back into the engagement as he drops in the back line.
They're still not done pulling this one, though. Kind of just relying on the secure from DeathPanter to be the deciding factor for these two teams. DeathPanter and the rest of his team now looking to turn the fight onto Lawbster, who's forced up into both of his is already. Dart is still sticking to him, but it's not enough. Even with the Taiko drums, Lawbster's still down and out for the count.
Cherryo falls in the back line to BigManTingz, but DeathPanter cleans up Faeles. BigManTingz won't be too far behind him, though, and Lawbster getting cleaned up early in that engagement on a bit of an island by himself really came up big for Elevate, who now stand 4 members strong, with 3 members for Valance waiting at 50-second respawn.
1 for 3 right now, and the call so far from Elevate seems to be just back, get healthy, and then look for this Fire Giant immediately. They need to try and secure this one. They are trying to give the respect, though, to Funballer. Funballer almost took out Baas in that engagement, was actually forced back, though, because he had no numbers alongside of him.
And Elevate coming up real big in these last few minutes. I know we're 40 minutes into this game, but it certainly hasn't felt like it so far. These two teams for like 25 minutes now have just been battling it out. They're so close, trying to get that spot there in Super Regionals, which is what's on the line, so you don't have to battle through the gauntlet and someone who's gone through a bunch of fights and maybe more warmed up than you. But Valance Squadron are going for the trade. They're just going to give up the Fire Giant. They don't even get the Gold Fury. Fire Giant goes the way of Elevate, and now they're going to take Gold Fury too.
Valance actually looking to just take their chances on their own objectives, willing to forfeit that Fire Giant to Elevate, which is very interesting because of how adamant they've been so far about defending it.
Well, they still Elevate defended it, so why can't we? Could perhaps be what Valance are thinking right now. Elevate, though, gold and experience are all but evened up, all but irrelevant, as just about everyone is level 20 at this point. Even our supports are level 19. The real big difference maker here is going to be the Fire Giant and how well they can break through the defenses of Valance Squadron. Who in particular do you think is the big defensive component that make Valance think they can fight the Fire Giant?
For Valance, it's going to be Faeles committing onto DeathPanter. If Faeles can find DeathPanter, and that goes back to what we were saying about the Bloodforge. We didn't really get to finish on that, but Bloodforge, the most important part of it is that temporary health shield he's going to receive. If he's able to take out DeathPanter, get the kill bounty reward for that with that Bloodforge shield proc, then that's probably going to give Faeles enough health to actually survive that counter engage, because so far, every single time he's gone in, he's just been getting shredded by Elevate immediately afterwards. So now he'll probably have a little bit more survivability when he chooses to play that aggressively up.
Now Elevate are making the call for the Tier 2 tower, and Valance Squadron, just like Elevate did, are looking to defend on the Tier 2. Elevate have a chance to get the split if they can pull this one off, but Valance Squadron have been looking so strong throughout this set that I don't think this is going to be very easy. Being charged up right now, though, is the final judgment by DeathPanter, instead putting it away. Cherryo is the one that goes in with the Fear No Evil, forcing back 4 members of Valance Squadron, but Ducky jumps in with the Lord of the Afterlife off the mark just a little bit as the final judgment from DeathPanter, so not too much comes from it, but Valance had to back off as Tier 2 tower falls.
And the sprint has been popped, however. No numbers, and Dardez not ready to give this one a just
Funballer,
yet.
no!
Funballer's gone! He's actually going to get cleaned up by Dardez. Oh no, everything's starting to fall apart for Valance. Ducky's next on the chopping block, still trying to get away. Not able to, however. He's got a giant bear in his backline.
Ducky ends up falling as well. Up in the air as Faeles. He lands down, but he has to turn tail almost immediately. Thorn's coming out to try and keep him alive for the moment, but the more important thing is zoning for the Phoenix. Elevate come through and pick up the Phoenix. Elevate come through and win the team fight 2-0. And now, but actually a blink back in on the Dardez, but the shell is enough to get him to turn back around. Dardez puts up the wall to try and create some separation, or rather BigManTingz does, and they do at least clean Dardez up.
But they were ready to back off, and now instead, No Numbers is going to be able to take out Lawbster. Fails, reminding Cherryo that he still exists, but then Baas, he is the sub and he is in charge.
And Valance Squadron, they kind of went back in on the end of the engagement, like you said. I think Elevate would have left, but re-engaging is Valance. Elevate turned back around. They realize they can win the fight, and win the fight they do, and Elevate looks like they're going to clean up game 2, 1-for-1 the set, and Valance, we hardly knew you. You're going to have to make that trek through the gauntlet now as Elevate have a good shot at going through at Super Regionals.
Elevate's through.
Yeah.
That is the through mark, I believe. If we were to check out the standings really quick, it actually will probably show that Elevate is fully in control of their own destiny, and they took it today.
And that's all Elevate needed to do, and that's Baas in particular coming up big for him. I mean, that is a tall order. Your team's whole split, where they've been playing out of their minds, is on the line, on your shoulders. You got to show up on that Hu-Yi, and he did it in game 2. Not saying he did it alone, but he did his job.
Valance kind of just falling victim to the same fate that they've had all season long. The splits have just been absolutely tragic in the moments where they need them least. And granted, it just shows that there's still a little bit of improvement to be made for this team, but a little heartbreaking as well, watching their chances for supers at least be all the harder to attain.
Well, believe it or not, that was only set 1 for the day. We still got plenty more SPL action, so if you need to take a bathroom break or get some snacks, now's the time. We'll be right back.
With a silver lining. See where I am, hit the top.